What's going on, everybody? Jack Acid here with episode 13 of the F1 2012 I Am No Expert Career Mode series. And before we get started here at Italy, as you can see, I just changed teams with Sauber as of Spa, and now being prompted here to pick a new rival, which was not available to me at the start of the season. So now that we've changed teams, I get to actually choose someone to compete with. And because of our duel at the end of Spa, I'm going to go ahead and choose Grosjean, and have a feeling that I might be able to beat him out in the points. Grosjean, myself, and Kobayashi very close in the standings, and more on that in just a moment. But taking a look at team objective, we are hoping to finish 8th in qualifying. And as you can see, it's supposed to be dry on race day, but a very wet session here in Q1. Probably going to continue through for the entire session here in Q1, probably into Q2 and Q3. But because of the dry conditions on race day, going to go ahead and go with the dry setup, even if it means losing a couple of spots here in qualifying. But getting back to the standings, right now I'm running in 9th position with 52 points. Grosjean running 8th with 56, so that's only a 4-point difference. And then Kobayashi running just ahead of us in 7th with 65 points. So with plenty of time to go in the season, there's a lot of opportunity for a shakeup before this is all said and done. As you can see here, nearing the end of Q1 in qualifying, and haven't even bothered to set a time, hoping that the conditions would improve. And Ricardo, my teammate with Toro Rosso, he and I get locked coming out of Lesmo 2 and now heading into Sorallo. And that was a very, very costly little excursion. He was very slow coming around there. Had a pretty clean lap otherwise, so let's see what kind of time we can get with our first timed lap here. And remember, we need to be into the top 17 by the end of the session. So P15 for that, but probably not safe. Going to have to go ahead and put in a second lap if I can. And always tricky to find the braking point here at full speed down here at turn 1. Always can be problematic, and able to avoid the corner cut. But I do go off into the gravel for just a moment. But hopefully things will pan out by the end of the lap. So here we are coming through the Parabolica and going wide here and into the gravel. And that's definitely going to cost me time. And now P15 is going to have to be what I hope sticks. I could try and get up some speed to do another qualifying lap, but the problem is I've lost so much speed because of that off that there's almost no point. And so just going to have to hope that this holds up. And sure enough, skipping to the end of the session, you can see that we were able to get in at P15. And that's a good sign for the team, and maybe we can make up some better ground and have better luck. Might not wait till the end of the session this time around. Can't afford to do that, because if you have any sort of problems whatsoever, it's probably the difference of getting through to the next session. So, of course, for now, team objective still to finish 8th. And as you can see, coming around the Parabolica, seeing what we can do with our first hot lap. And ideally, trying to get into the top 10. It would be a great relief for me to finally get into Q3 for the first time in a long time. And as you can see, posting a P3 time for now. Of course, that's going to change. But not too bad of a start, just behind Hamilton and Alonso, and beating out Schumacher. So right now, that sounds like it could be a top 10. But as you can see, already getting bumped out by Button after his first hot lap. And so skipping ahead to the end of lap 2, coming around the Parabolica, you can see already bumped down into P9. And let's see if we're able to improve it all. Yes, we are. Taking off almost 2.5 seconds all the way up into P1. And leading Hamilton by about 0.6 seconds. So car is feeling a little slippery. Not convinced I'm going to be able to beat my time this time around. Going to go ahead and pull it back into the garage and watch timing and scoring. Maybe the conditions will improve before we go out on our second set of laps. But looking at the weather now, that may or may not happen. Can't really count on it, but that's okay. Want to see how this first place shakes out. Of course it won't last, but not sure just how far down we will get bumped. So here, just under 5 minutes to go, down in P8, which is flirting with a bubble, and going to throw on a fresh set of intermediates and try and go back out and improve my time. And hopefully things will pan out. But you can see here, bump down into P12 and narrowly avoiding one of the Mercedes there coming around turn 1 and speeding out, trying to get a better time. You can see just over a minute to go, now just under 45 seconds. And here at Lesmo 2, having problems and sliding off track into the gravel. And with just over 30 seconds to play, that's going to basically cost me any chance of improving my time. I'm going to have to be satisfied with 12th. But to be honest with you, that's not a bad qualifying session given the track conditions. And Kamui Kobayashi, my teammate, qualifying in 16th, so already have him beat out. But of course, the key objective for me in this race is I have the disappointing conversation with my engineer. is to beat out Roman Grosjean, my chosen rival from Lotus. So that'll be the objective. You can see that he's qualified in 6th. So we'll have to wait and see what we can do here on race day, but got much better conditions, nice bright blue sky here at Monza, the oh-so-famed track here in Italy, and team objective is to finish in 9th position. Taking a look at the starting grid, Sebastian Vettel on pole position with Alonso behind and Hamilton in 3rd. And Maldonado down in 8th position, and Grosjean, our rival, as mentioned before, starting off in 9th. There I am in P12. And Kobayashi, my teammate, down in 16th spot. And looking at the bottom of the grid, no real surprises. Hulkenberg down in 17th, so that's a disappointment for Force India. And just double checking our weather forecast, and of course we got clear skies as mentioned, shouldn't have any problems. Going to start off on the option tires and due to pit at the end of lap 6 for our prime tires, and hopefully our setup from that very wet qualifying session are going to work out well here in dry conditions. Did have a chance to play with it a little bit in practice, but had spotty conditions for that even, and so not really sure what to expect here in my second race with Sauber. But I would like to get a good result. It feels like it's been a long time since I've had one. Been struggling on qualifying, and with the team transition and things like that, kind of been getting in the way, and it's sort of played out in the results. So would like to remember what it's like to get a mid-top 10 finish or something of the sort. So let's see what happens here at the start of Monza here in P12. Looking at the back of Raikkonen and Lotus lined up next to Schumacher, and here we are off the line. Not a very good start. In fact, a terrible start. Already having to change my fuel mix, being overtaken by Bruno Senna and the Williams, and now competing wheel-to-wheel with DiResta on the right-hand side as we come down into turn 1, looking for some space, and sliding right by Raikkonen, rolling up over the curb, slight contact with Massa, and just barely tipping the back of Maldonado. And now it's Webber, Maldonado, and Massa, 3 cars wide, coming through the Curva Grande, looking for some space, and they both slow down. Maldonado almost spinning out there. You could see him starting to waver and fishtail a bit, but able to get ahead of him up into P8. Now looking for some space, coming down into turn 3, and going to try and make up some ground here and avoid contact. And Webber and I trying to share real estate, able to get around, but I think he got caught up in the chicane, and you can see that the traffic on the mini-map is getting backed up as a result of that. No warning from the stewards. I think it was a pretty clean overtake. It was just a very, very tight fit. And Webber, unfortunately for him, lost out. But I'm already up into P6, but now being hounded by Massa and the Ferrari. And coming along the first DRS zone of the circuit, although DRS not enabled until lap 3. And Massa thinking about having to go, but I don't think he's going to have enough speed to get around. Coming down through Ascari and going a little bit wide there, dropping it down into 3rd gear to get through these sets of corners, and now going flat out down this very long back straight. And looking at the pace of the AI, I feel pretty good about speed of the Sauber, and that's a very good sign heading into the longer stretches of this race. Going a little bit wide here at the Parabolica, dropping it down into 2nd gear to catch myself, and Felipe Massa comes into the back of me. Felt no real loss of grip from the cars, so it was pretty harmless, but scary all the same. And now Massa really being pushed back as we speed down into the first corner here at Monza called the Rettifilo, and trying to follow Button coming through here, rolling up over the curb a bit, and not too bad, didn't go into the gravel, which is pretty typical for me. And now the gap's starting to expand here just a bit at the start of lap 2. Now skipping ahead to the middle of lap 3, and as you can see, coming down this very long back straight, now DRS enabled, and Felipe Massa can have an opportunity to have a go, or is he? Here he comes, and it looks like we're going to be sharing some real estate, but he backs off now as we come through Ascari again, and again going a little bit wide. And actually, the truth be known, you can really abuse that corner, which I tend to do if I'm in qualifying, or if I've got someone hot on my heels. You can really cut that corner, but trying to be clean about it here at the end of lap 3, holding very good speed coming down that back straight. And again, that's going to mean that should have some pretty good pace for the day. Now holding off Massa a lot better coming through the Parabolica here at the start of lap 4, looking at timing and scoring, and you can see only 1/10 of a second lost to Button, so holding very good pace with the leaders. But here comes Massa on the outside. Let's see if he's got the metal to try and get around. He backs off now, and having me a little bit spooked, rolling up over the curb, and now getting a warning from the stewards about corner cutting. But I'll take the warning as long as I can gain the ground. Felipe Massa really starting to unnerve me coming down there through turn 1. And now able to get the gaps expanded out again. Going a little bit wide there, coming around the end of the Curva Grande. And now down into turn 3. Almost close enough to make a move on Button. This is actually a really good sign. Actually gaining on the leaders now, which is highly unusual for me, at least at any point during this season. Probably because I was racing with a Toro Rosso. But this is my first chance to really feel the Sauber on a track as fast as Monza, and I gotta be honest, I'm highly impressed, but Felipe Massa having none of it as we come speeding down this Seraglio, and here he comes along on the outside, now wheels interlocked, competing down into Ascari. Let's see what happens here, and there's the corner cutting that I had mentioned before, and you can see that I get an illegal overtake message, and backing off now, and the message is gone, and confusion as I slowed down to try and let Felipe Massa by, and all of a sudden the message disappeared. And now Felipe Massa getting the better of us, coming along on the outside here. Let's see if he wants to pass us on the final corner of the circuit, and he's able to overtake. So I'd like an explanation from the stewards on what the heck that was. I was basically warned about the illegal overtake, but only for a moment, and all of a sudden it disappeared, and Felipe Massa able to get around. So now trying to compensate using the DRS, KERS, and a rich fuel mix, and able to get back in front of the Ferrari. Hopefully we don't go off track here down at turn 1. And able to drop it down pretty well, and no, that's going to be another warning from the stewards. Had a little too much speed going into the chicane, but at least I feel like justice was served, able to get around Felipe Massa, having to break out every single big gun I had to get it done. But now skipping ahead to the start of lap 6 and changing my fuel mix again, and Massa and I are back at it, dueling our way, heading down here into turn 1, and he's able to overtake on the inside. Being able to outbrake him here, should be able to stay ahead, and hopefully we don't have any problems with these corners. And much cleaner that time, no warning from the stewards. And now trying to adjust my fuel mix, I have accidentally changed my tire change option in the pit. And I'm scheduled to pit on this very lap for primes and accidentally just changed it to options. And desperately trying to get that rectified as we come down into turn 3. Very tricky timing to do that. Really should have been patient and waited till I was along a main straight. And now finally getting my fuel mix back to normal. That's what I was trying to do from the start. So a near disaster there, getting all that squared away, but we're back in shape here, still maintaining P6, but getting more heat from Massa. And here we go again as we enter the DRS zone, and it looks like he's going to have a look on the outside, and there he goes on the right, able to get around and overtake, and you have to think that my pace with Massa is just not very competitive. And we've been going through this for a handful of laps now, trying to stick with him through Ascari. And rolling up over the curb too much there, starting to lose the car, coming along the long back straight, losing a lot of time as a result of that. But able to compose myself and level out and try and keep him in our sights as we come around the Parabolica. And looking at our tire wear, you can see that our tires are holding up extremely well. Going to skip my pit stop and hope to stick with Massa. As we come around for the start of lap 7, going to go ahead and change my fuel mix back to rich. And really hoping to outweight Massa for the pit stops. Would like to get ahead of him. Let's see if he goes in the pit at the end of this lap. Try to make a move down here at turn 1 and able to get around him, but rolling over the curb yet again, and this time, strangely, no warning from the stewards, even though it was about as grievous as the last time I got a warning. So able to get in front of Massa yet again, and you can see that we've elevated our positions as a result of the leaders going into pit. And coming around here later in the lap around Lesmo 2, and here comes Massa yet again. Looks like he's going to have a look on the outside, and there he goes. You can see that his pace is extremely quick, and this time Massa able to overtake earlier on in the straightaway, which means he's going faster than me, and cheating very hard here at Ascari, trying to get caught up with him. And you can see that I was able to gain some ground on him, pretty much totally cutting off that corner, as I had mentioned before. Pretty easy to abuse, and sticking with Massa very good here. And looking at my tires, still not convinced that I need to go in yet, hoping that Massa will go in here. Going a little bit wide here and hoping to avoid contact with him. Let's see if he goes into pit so we can get our position back. And yes, he is going into pit. And you can see a couple of cars in the pit lane. Going to go ahead and jump up to P1 as a result of Hamilton and Rosberg going in for that pit stop. And now you can see a bunch of clean air. So skipping ahead at the end of lap 8, finally going in for my pit stop here, and you can see that there's no one around me, but of course this P1 won't last long. In fact, here comes Hamilton now. He'll be able to overtake, and following him is Alonso in the Ferrari, and there he goes. Team getting me out the door in just under 4 seconds. Here comes Rosberg in the Mercedes. He's able to get by. Now changing my fuel mix for the exit here. And it looks like we'll rejoin all the way up into P4, so actually gaining a couple of positions. Remember, we were running P6 before the pit stop started to shake out. And so this is shaping up to be a very great race, but got to compete with Sebastian Vettel here coming down into turn 1, rolling up over the curb. And no warning from the stewards. I guess it was deemed not an advantage, but speaking of advantages, Sebastian Vettel trying to gain one on me now and trying to get ahead of me, pulling out right in front of the Red Bull coming out of the pit lane exit. And so basically my pit stop could not have gone any better, but of course we got to keep him in our rearview mirrors. And the first test is going to be coming up to this DRS zone. Let's see what kind of pace he has. Going to up my fuel mix just to keep some kind of pace here. And here he comes on the left-hand side, able to overtake. He's got me by half a car length, but now backing off, coming through Ascari, and almost going into the gravel yet again, starting to lose the car, coming back onto the tarmac, but now leveling out. And Sebastian Vettel not detoured one bit, very hot on our heels, might even have a go on the outside here. You can see him in the left-hand side mirror. And let's see if he's got the metal down here at the Parabolica, backing off now and does not get around, but really losing no speed on me whatsoever. And of course none of this is helped by the fact that I've been out on the cold tires for the entire lap, but of course they're warmed up now. So here at the start of lap 10, currently ahead of Vettel by just over 0.3 of a second, Roman Grosjean, our rival, all the way back in 10th spot, so short of a major catastrophe, we should have no problem finishing ahead of him. And very spooked coming through this chicane because of how many problems that I've had with it, trying to keep the Red Bull in my rearview mirrors. And now you can see that Weber has actually overtaken Vettel for P5, and now coming through the DRS zone, going to have to watch out for him. And here he comes on the left-hand side, and now Vettel has overtaken both of us on the right-hand side, was basically overtaken by both Red Bulls at the same time, now competing through Ascari, trying to stay on track, able to get ahead of Weber, but Vettel able to take advantage. And now upping our fuel mix, hoping to keep our sights set on the German, feeling aggressive, don't want to let Fingerboy ruin our good day. And now coming through the Parabolica, contact there, and both of us trying to regain our composure, trying to stay on the inside to get ahead of him. And that was probably my fault. I did brake a little bit late, although I didn't think that was going to happen. Seemed like he was cutting on the inside a little bit sooner than I expected him to, and thus no penalty for either of us. And able to get P4 back from the German. And let's be honest, the fact that he's Sebastian Vettel probably had something to do with the fact that I was being that aggressive in the first place. But I digress. Getting back to the race here, start of lap 13, going to take you through the final lap, and as you can see, running just over 0.3 of a second in front of Vettel, which has been pretty consistent. And you can see that our fuel is down to an optimal level, but going to continue to run the rich fuel mix for the final lap, and glad I don't have to see that chicane again, at least not for another year, and try and stay ahead of the Red Bull. And regardless of how this one shakes out, it's definitely been a memorable race, that's for sure, at least for me. Especially with those early duels with Massa, now being capped off by this little dance with Vettel to end the race here. Perhaps it'll set up for a future rivalry. I'll have to worry about getting to Ferrari or McLaren before I can do that, though. Gotta focus on first things first, coming through Lesmo for the final time. And let's see what kind of pace Vettel has coming down the DRS zone. You can expect that he's going to be very aggressive, that's for sure. Going to go ahead and stay on the inside. Let's see what happens here, coming around. And burning off all my curves and drifting now in contact there with Vettel. You can see him starting to waver. I think that his front wing came into contact with my rear wheel. And maybe I was starting to drift a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. Now coming onto the long back straight for the final time. And looking at the mini-map, it looks like Vettel's not going to have any opportunity to get even close to us here. Probably still feeling a little bit shaken up from the contact, and short of a major problem here, which it looks like we'll be able to avoid, although I do drift a little bit. We will be able to maintain the P4 result here at Monza. And admittedly, it was an aggressive drive, but a satisfying one all the same. It feels like a very long time since I've had a top 5 result. As you can see, Kobayashi finishing in 12th and Grosjean in 11th. And don't forget how close we are in points, so it'll be interesting to see the driver standings. But taking a quick look at the race results, Lewis Hamilton winning the race after starting from 3rd. And Jenson Button, who was running pretty high early on in the race, finishing down in 9th. And Kimi Räikkönen, something happened to his race, finishing in 17th. And Nico Hülkenberg, who had the terrible qualifying session, was the only DNF for the race. So going to leave you guys here with some race highlights. I'll give you a driver standings update in the next episode. And boy, just noticing how much Di Resta was pushed off track there, down there at turn 1. And that was very aggressive on my part. I'm surprised I wasn't hit with some kind of a penalty. And you couple that with the fact that I faced no repercussions for my contact with Vettel, and I guess you could say that, at least for today, luck has been on my side. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you have enjoyed it. Please take a look at my channel for a number of other commentary videos specifically for F1 2012, Forza Horizon, and Forza 4. And I do take requests. In fact, I'm working on some Top Gear test laps, which are long overdue. Haven't touched Forza 4 in quite a while, actually. So anxious to get back into that. And of course, I'll be posting more Forza Horizon over the next few weeks at least. So hope you guys will tune in for that. And speaking of tuning in, I'll hope to see you at the next one in Singapore. Until then, so long.